What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
Guys, we're doing one just super relevant for the modern high-speed world that we live in today, where we're all on our phones and on our phones more and just on our phones again.
What was that? I was on my phone, sorry.
I was trying to think of more things I'm on all the time, but it's really just my phone. And that question is, what if all digital data disappeared overnight? Just to clarify a little bit, when we say digital data disappear overnight, we don't mean like every piece of programming or anything goes away. It's specifically like a digital storage.
Yeah, we had that question like an hour ago, and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, but basically like hard drives, flash drives, memory, anything like that. If it's just, it's not like all circuits just don't work.
Yeah, electronics still work.
Yeah.
As long as they don't rely on software that was saved on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So as we like to do on these, and I'll take the reins for this one, is before we go on to all of the very, very many things that are problematic, we'll start with the small focus and just look at what does it look like for one person to just wake up in this. And the way we're doing this is it just disappeared overnight. It's like, as if a normal day, and then overnight, everything's wiped. So I wake up in the morning, and I imagine I'll start off fairly well rested, actually, because my alarm will not have gone off. I'll see the sun high up in the sky, and I'll immediately check my phone and find out, hey, that alarm is not there. Also, it's basically a brick, because my phone will not only have forgotten about my alarm, it'll kind of have forgotten its entire operating system.
See, I don't use my phone as an alarm. I have like a designated alarm clock.
I used to have an alarm clock, but it had a motion sensing snooze button where I could just wave my hand over it and it would snooze for like 10 minutes. And that was a problem because I basically had gotten to the point where I didn't actually have to wake up to snooze my alarm. Like I didn't have to consciously like even get to the hit a button point. It was just like a wave, and I couldn't mentally count how many times I had done it anymore.
It's not a great idea for an alarm clock.
I had one of those ones too, and I had literally the exact same problem.
It was too convenient. Like you woke up, but you didn't.
It's like the way you snooze this alarm clock is you snore.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so my phone will not tell me what time it is. And funnily, like looking around my apartment, I still won't have any idea what time it is because I don't actually have like an analog clock anywhere, and my wristwatch has been out of battery for like years now and stopped. So I would have no idea what time it is.
You can't read the sun?
Yeah, I could look outside and see the sun and be like, well, it's late winter right now, so it's gotta be... No, I would not know what time it is. Also, I wouldn't even know what day it is. Like, I could remember what yesterday's date was, but I don't have a calendar to confirm it. Like, I don't keep a wall calendar anywhere that has, like, dates crossed off. Anything I checked for is, like, on my phone. So that's also... I have no idea what time it is, what time of day it is. But, I'll probably remember if it's a work day or not. So the first thing I'm gonna have to do is go out and shower. And here's kind of a bit of a question mark, because plumbing's a bit weird in that generally it doesn't really use any software or programs or anything to manage plumbing, like even at a municipal level. Like the plumbing system at large uses just gravity and pressure to maintain its, maintain the pressure to get it flowing into your house. That said, the first step of getting water into the system is the water treatment system, which the water treatment system plant does have, I imagine, some number of programs and routines and software. So the real question is will the people at the water treatment plant have enough manual controls to get them started again so that people still have water? And that one's a bit of a question mark. I'm going to go ahead and say, get a day or two, maybe by the morning, by the time you wake up in the morning, because if this happens, say, at midnight, in the time between midnight and, no alarm, so, 10:30 a.m., they may have, in those 10 and a half hours, gotten it in, a running shape, for manual things. Electricity, too, is kind of in a similar boat. If you want, if you have electrically heated water, for example. And realistically, I think like the electric plants will have more problems not having software, because I imagine there's a lot more programs managing electrical distribution than there are for water. But again, I'm just gonna throw it out there, and that the water and the electricity are gonna work, because for one, we've done, if there's no electricity, like a bunch of different times, and it causes a giant host of other problems, and kind of takes this question away from what if we lost digital data and more if we lost all electricity and technology. So I'm gonna say,
Yeah, I don't really think of plumbing when you ask what if we lost digital data.
yeah, exactly. So plumbing, electricity, my assumption is like after the first like few hours, they roughshod something together to get the systems back online. So like electricity and water are flowing. So I can have my shower. That's nice. Then go make myself breakfast. Not too many problems here, though my coffee machine will have forgotten what the brew button does, which is sad. So I will not have my coffee there. But that's not a big deal. Then, assuming, pretending it isn't 2021 or the off day I do go to the office, let's look at my commute. And cars have a fair number of computer bits nowadays. And I'm pretty sure even like my 2016-ish Honda Civic probably won't start if you take all the software out of it. It does have a push button to go, and I imagine there's like some kind of panel or minor program between that push button and starting up the engine. That said, assuming I could somehow jump my car, or I was able to go rent an older car, because, if you have a car from even 10, 15 years ago, there's probably not much that makes it all the way up to the level of software between, starting up the car and going somewhere.
The one thing I don't know about is like power steering. I don't know if any of that is controlled by like an onboard, I know there is a computer involved somewhere with some things in the car. I just don't know if that gets hooked in like power steering. So that could be tricky.
Yeah, exactly. And there's actually a lot of interesting debate going on about like software in cars, because I was trying to figure out exactly how many things are software related. And there's actually it was a recall on Priuses for the brakes, where whenever the car would brake, it would take some of that braking energy and the energy that's wasted when you brake, and took that and used it to charge the car battery while you're braking. Only apparently the software for it could sometimes cause there to be a delay between when you hit the brakes and they're actually, the actual braking motion, because it was figuring out how much power to send to the battery. So people had to bring their Priuses in for a recall where they just like gave it a software update so that it could brake properly. So there's a lot of interesting debate about like that, especially now with more self-driving cars and like lane control and lane assist, stuff like along those lines, which is a whole different topic. But basically, the newer your car is, the more problems you're going to have if the software goes away. And you don't need a super duper old car to have something that's drivable. But it does have to be fairly old. So assuming your car can go, then you have to actually just get to work, which involves, the street grid. I didn't consider this during my prep, but the street grid, street lights and all that, I'm pretty sure run on software. That's going to be a problem. But navigation is what I looked at. And I'm just going to do a quick sidebar looking at airplanes, actually. That's where I started my research, was looking at if planes were screwed. It kind of falls into the same thing as the municipalities, like all the utilities, where planes that are already in the air overnight are actually going to be generally okay. There's enough. Planes have so many different backup systems, and the last backup system is pilots can manually land a plane without any software in case everything goes wrong. So you can actually get the planes that are in the air on the ground. And then as far as like slightly longer term, again, after the first morning, like planes have enough, like they use active systems, like active GPS, to know where they are. And like when they approach an airport, the airport uses, again, like live signals to guide the plane into it. So there's really not much that the plane needs for stored data to navigate around the globe. So that's just my little sidebar on planes. They would be okay. But we have a car, and a car with no Waze or no Google Maps and no GPS still kind of sucks if you're trying to find a place. I can make it to work, of course, but assuming I have to like go to a new place.
Yeah, you actually have to know where everything is, or like read a paper map. That's unheard of.
Yeah, we have maps, and I'm confident I could use a map. The problem is not so much like I could make it to like, I could go to Hartford, I could go to a different city, I could do a decently long drive and get close. The problem is for me is like the last 5 miles, because the one thing that has, I think, been lost now in our young whippersnapper generation is how to give or get directions. Like, once I get close to a place, be like, oh yeah, I'm looking for Knife Co. Where's Knife Co? Someone will know where Knife Co. is, and then try and tell me how to get there with words. And it's just not going to work.
I am the worst at giving directions. I'm really bad at it.
The problem is, I think our generation is so much worse at about giving directions because, like, no one's established the shared landmarks. Like, if everyone's giving directions to each other, everyone knows the main landmarks because you'll have gotten a whole bunch of directions for, like, oh yeah, you go to the big church and that's the main town roundabout, or oh yeah, the supermarket that happens to be on this intersection that is a popular turning spot, where that is. We never develop that mental map of specifically like landmarks. Like a mental map of where I am, like general directions, yes, but like identifiable areas for like just looking at it from the car and being able to know what's there just is gone. So unless someone's navigating me like within like 2 miles of my home, it's gonna be a problem. So I can make it to work. Hopefully I don't have to go anywhere that day. I imagine there'll be plenty of problems at work. I just wrote general chaos at the office because...
Well, it depends on your job.
Yeah, I have an office. I have a fairly typical office job. We work in construction. There's spreadsheets. There's to-do lists. There's like tracking. There's a lot of stuff that we do on like our company server that is now gone. And yeah, that'll be a problem. We don't have very many paper backups for things. So us and a lot of small to mid-sized companies will be at a loss of what to do with their missing work product. But that's kind of that's a little specific to each individual, so I didn't go too deep in that. But more importantly, the office coffee machine also doesn't remember how to brew. So it's, again, no fucking coffee for me.
You can learn how to slow pour. I'm sure it's not that difficult.
Yeah, it's like you can assumedly boil water in some fashion and pour it over the grounds, but there's probably an art to it, and you're probably going to get a couple bad batches of coffee before you get like good coffee.
Better than nothing.
Also, I don't know where I would boil water in my office.
Yeah, we don't have a stove.
Yeah, we don't have a place to actually boil water. We have like a hot water. We can get hot water out of our water thing, but
there's a
microwave. I don't know if
that
would be hot enough.
I guess will the microwave work? I don't know.
Microwaves are a gray area.
Well, microwaves work very good at heating water. So yes, you could boil water in the microwave.
If they would still work though.
Yeah, we don't know if microwaves work very good at working, so...
Oh, because of the whole, they aren't programmed. Yeah, there's got to be a small set of, like, software right behind, to set the time, and that already ruins you. So, yeah, no,
I'm sure someone has a lighter. You can start a fire.
Or like a toaster oven.
All right, I'm not going to start a campfire in the office. It's not like the whole world has collapsed.
You need your coffee. You've already established how important your coffee is, so...
I guess no one else will have coffee either, so it's going to be a whole group of coffee-deprived office workers, and someone will say, what if we just light a fire just to make coffee? And then it'll be like, that sounds like a great idea, because I haven't had my coffee yet.
Yeah, you can't do anything else. You can't solve the digital problem without coffee.
Yeah, what is it? We're not cavemen. But yeah, as far as like trying to do my job, all the office stuff is gone. Phones are kind of an interesting in-between where landline phones can work. Again, kind of like the older they are, the better chance you have, where straight landline telephones just work through directly generating the electrical signal with your voice. But of course, modern days, now there's a lot more phones and things that have an in-between software stuff to make the experience, modernized. So if you got some old phones around, you can maybe still make some phone calls and do a little bit of work. But again, probably a lost day at work. Back home again, not too much drama making dinner. I got water, I got electricity, my stove works. I can't Google recipes, which is tricky, but luckily my Blue Apron recipes are on physical print cards, so I will not be at a loss. So thank you, Blue Apron. One of the few podcasts not sponsored by Blue Apron. They'll have to get on that, so I'm not telling you anything about their delicious meals available for $10 per serving and easy to follow recipes that teach you how to cook. But on the plus side, after dinner is, if I have any plans that I don't want to go to, very easy not to show up. They can't call my cell phone, and I can very easily say, it was all on my calendar that I lost, so very easy to not go anywhere that evening.
I'll say that, yeah, personally, I would have no chance of remembering any plans I had if my, phone broke, so it's not even an excuse for me. I just entirely forgot, legitimately.
Yeah. So, Again, you can make it through the day. Things are going to slowly get reestablished. The maps will be uploaded back onto Google Maps. There'll be some efforts in certain different things. Kind of for the immediate future, I have this little section here, planning for the next day. So for my alarm clock, making a new alarm clock will be tricky. The one thing I did see, which could be interesting, is the old-fashioned alarm clock before the advent of electricity was to use a long candle and put nails in it. And when the candle melted down to where the nail was, the nail would fall, and you'd put it like in a thin tin dish or a copper dish. So when the nail fell, it would make that clinging noise. So you could try to make an alarm clock out of a candle. It does involve having a fire lit all night long, and I doubt you'll get it right on the first try where to put the nail. So you'll likely just get woken up at like 1:30 in the morning.
I think they have like water versions of that too, right?
How would you do it as a water version?
I know water clock's a thing. I don't know what it actually entails. Hold
I
on.
looked it up because I covered water clocks before in a previous episode. I don't remember how it worked, but I remember I looked it up.
You just have to set up a bucket of exactly the right size and just have your faucet go into it and have it so that at 9 a.m. in the morning it is, or 8 a.m. in the morning if you actually wake up early for work, that the bucket fills up and tips over at exactly 8 a.m. and then dumps it all on you. That would wake you up. There's a water clock for you. For my coffee, yes, you can try to boil the water and in some fashion pour it over the grounds. You can try boiling water in the morning and do like a manual coffee thing, which who knows how well that'll work. I'm kind of curious. Maybe I try it sometime.
It is a thing. People do that right now. It's a niche thing, but it's the thing.
You do it when you're like camping and stuff.
Or people that are just like really into coffee.
I just don't think it's going to be better. So I'm probably never going to try it. And as far as like driving goes, yeah, I can get some maps, look at some maps. Also good to buy a phone book to get like addresses for restaurants and stores and things, because even if someone tells me about a store, I don't know what the address is. So it'd be good to have an old-fashioned phone book. And if I'm getting the old-fashioned phone book, might as well get the old-fashioned phone to go with it. And then I'm basically back in action.
When you said that Google would eventually upload their maps back up onto Google Maps, like I got the mental image of them having paper maps of everything and scanning them.
Honestly, probably not too far off what they would do. Like, probably the quickest way to generate these maps is to have a program that can scan and recognize maps. If you were Google.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Not if you were... Yeah, not just me. I can't do
Well,
that.
I mean, they would probably try to build it from scratch again.
Yeah, like I said, I think you start with existing maps because it's kind of hard to map things out from nothing because you have to collect the data again. So you would use the best existing data set, which is likely maps. And yeah, that's day one with no digital data. Ben, what do you got?
So I'm gonna say that maybe there is one thing that I was talking about, so intentionally overlooked, which is, hey, so what's gonna happen to our money? It's a pretty big question, pretty important.
It's under the mattress, all in cash.
It is
No problem.
under the mattress, all in cash. So yeah, really though, what actually is gonna happen to literally all of the money? So really, what I want to figure out first was just like if this happened, what do banks actually store in paper that they could use to, make any kind of recovery from the situation? And the answer is it's complicated. Unsurprisingly, no bank has, at least none that I could find, have anything laying out exactly what they keep paper records of. So I basically had to work off of 1, assumptions, and 2, regulations. So at this point, there's not really any regulations that I could find that required anything to be kept in paper records. Like, there's no regulations that say that, for, X days, you have to have paper records of all transactions or something. That just doesn't exist. Which makes sense because it's actually like super easy and cheap as hell to have redundant digital storage of whatever you want. It's, you throw it in 3 data centers around the country, and there's basically nothing aside from just the entire country imploding that's going to stop your data from being available.
Or a stupid hypothetical question. Right? This is the good old when people were playing their disaster recovery strategy and they say, well, what happens if the entire eastern seaboard is gone? And the answer is, I don't think anyone cares about our product at that point, Jim. But there are regulations that say that if the source of a transaction or something
is a paper record. So if someone, if you're still accepting forms for things or things like that, that original copy generally does have to actually be saved for some amount of time. However, that's not eternally. It's really just for audit purposes. So it looks like the furthest I was seeing on that was about 5 years. So there's definitely no way that, a bank could go through their paper records and reconstruct everyone's accounts. It's just not going to happen. So the one thing that is possible is people having bank statements. Now, this is also kind of a corner case because I don't know how happy a bank is going to be if you come in after this happens and say, hey, I have this bank statement that I have printed out from 3 weeks ago that says I had this much money, give me that much money. They're probably not going to do it.
I mean, it's pretty believable given that Photoshop no longer exists.
Well, that actually is a compelling argument. That actually, I hadn't thought about that you're right. It would be pretty hard to make a fake right now, huh? So maybe it actually would be more viable. However, it's tough to say how many people actually would even have a bank statement. So, well, I say it's tough to say. It's unlikely that many people would have a bank statement. As of March 2018, there were an estimated 32% of banking customers who are paperless, who had chosen the option, send me nothing, no paper, yay. I'm going to say that over the last 3 years, that proportion has flipped, that now roughly a third of people are still getting paper statements and things from their bank, just because I know that banks have gotten really pushy about trying to get you to go paperless. And I would guess that
and then they send
people,
you paper anyway.
They do, and half the time it's telling you should go paperless, and you already did, and it seems very weird. But yeah, so I'm going to say that a third of people even get paper statements at this point. So even if you do, I personally, when I get something from my bank, it basically immediately goes into the garbage. So unless I got a bank statement in the last, maybe 2 days, if I hadn't checked my mail, it's probably already gone. So conceivably, a third of people might have a bank statement, and I would guess that maybe a third of them would even still have it. The people who actually file those, smart people. So if we're going to say that roughly 10% of people would have their bank statements, that's not going to be enough for them to actually reliably give everyone their money back, most likely. So the long story short is that banks are screwed and our money is screwed if it's in a bank. Investments, basically the same story. Pretty much everything is digital now. Same deal with account statements. You might have something, might not. Depending on the bank or, however you're doing your investing, they may honor that. Most likely not. There is one kind of hilarious caveat to the investments all being gone too. So there are this type of investments called private placement investments, which are basically just, directly investing from a person to a person or, a person to a corporation. So not on an exchange or anything, just literally you sign a contract with someone saying you own X amount of this thing. That basically always is a signed paper contract. So those would actually exist. The hilarious caveat is I actually found a thing saying that at the end of 2019, HSBC, which is a British investment bank, was actually transitioning their $20 billion in private placement records to a blockchain technology that will all be digital.
Yay!
So it's entirely possible that if this had happened, a couple years back, those would have been fine, but most likely now they're probably also digital. So that's not to say that people might not still have their own copies, but it's less likely than it used to be. So, long story short, most of the money is just gone. How much money actually is that? How much money is all of the money in the world? So, in terms of just physical money / money that's in savings checking account, money that's is just available, usable money everyone people have access to really easily. That's about $37 trillion. That's also only about 3% of the money in the world because the other 1.2 quadrillion is in investments, cryptocurrency, things like that. Cryptocurrency, by the way, obviously entirely gone. So goodbye Bitcoin spike. That lasted, that was fun while it lasted.
Oh man, Bitcoins aren't real anymore.
Hey, there you go. So the next question I have is, assuming that, all of this non-paper money is basically gone, what is that paper money actually worth at this point if you have it? So taking those values there, that $1.23 quadrillion in total money in the world, if you just look at what is actually raw cash, not US dollars, but just in any currency, the total is roughly $5 trillion if it is all, converted to US dollars. And assuming, and this is obviously big grain of salt here, big old grain of salt. There's no like value loss or gain or anything. That all of that $1.23 quadrillion just basically transfers into this paper money. All your paper money is now worth about 246 times as much as it was before.
Ooh.
So that's pretty cool.
This my under the mattress investment strategy has finally paid off.
Exactly. It has definitely paid off. So I did mention blockchain briefly. There are a couple other things that are going to happen with blockchain. I'm not going to go into the details because blockchain is annoying. I don't want to have to explain it. The short version is that it's basically a way to track transactions where the thing being transacted stores the entire like list of transactions it's associated with. The idea is that it's, self-recording and more secure, blah, blah, whatever. But for the most part, right now it's just used for cryptocurrency, and it's all going to be just people's investments disappearing. However, I actually just saw a thing about this a couple of weeks ago. The mayor of Miami is actually pushing very hard to make Miami an incredibly crypto-forward city, and he's exploring having like the state legislature be involved with blockchain, paying employees in Bitcoin, having the city treasury in Bitcoin, using blockchain for voting for the city, things like that. And basically it's transitioning the entire city to be on a blockchain platform. So it's entirely possible that if this happened, Miami just doesn't exist anymore. Like,
what? Who does? Well, I mean, it's not like New York City is sitting on a big pile of fucking cash in a Scrooge mansion to pay its bills. But like, why would you go? Why could you imagine just like signing up for like a consistent government job, and they're like, hey, new thing, we're gonna pay you in Bitcoin now.
So to be fair, the answer on all this is that it's not going to happen, and he's just trying to get tech companies to come to Miami. But if it did happen, I mean, that's a decision they made. I don't know, whatever. So long story short, if this actually happened, if all these digital records were destroyed, what would actually happen with like people's money and whatnot? Really, the only things people will have records of are possibly bank statements that may or may not be worth anything. And then definitely deeds. So land, homes, cars, I guess boats, that's about it in terms of like things that you can provably prove you have.
Provably prove.
It's not going to lie, not at this moment, we're going to roll with it. So the global economy definitely collapses. And the one sort of saving grace of this is that assuming paper money does hold/increase in value, the people who are best off out of all this are probably the people who are pretty bad off right now, who have most of their money in cash. So that's cool. Good old, wealth redistribution. Let's go with that. Kind of a happy ending.
We fixed the world. Yeah, we fixed the world.
Let's say that. Also, Miami's gone,
Take that, big corporations, and also Miami.
It's a fair trade. Hey, Chris, what did you do?
So I decided to look at something that's probably pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but I wanted to look at movies because I like movies, and if we don't have movies anymore, then that would be bad. So do we have movies is the question that I asked. And to do this, basically I looked at like the comparison between movies shot on digital versus movies shot on film, because there's like historically there's been an argument between the two. And I found an article on a website called The Pudding, which they do like visual essay style things. And they have one on film. It's called Film or Digital: Breaking Hollywood's Choice of Shooting Medium. And in this article, they analyze the 100 top grossing movies in the US from 2006 to 2017, just to see like which movies were shot in digital and shot in film. And they identified 2012 as a turning point where the majority switched from film to digital. So I think this article is actually written in 2017. So 2017 is the latest data set that they have. But in 2017, 92% of all films were shot in digital, which is a huge chunk.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, they're going to digitally alter it anyway. Might as well start with digital.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to see like what factors go into if a filmmaker decides one way or the other. One of the big factors is budget. So a low budget film will tend to use digital cameras more often just because digital cameras are way cheaper than film cameras. Film cameras are usually like, they're more geared towards like elite filmmakers with like really big budgets. So 92% of all movies that had a budget less than $20 million shot in digital. between 2015 and 2017. So that's pretty significant. Then another factor that they looked at was genre. So again, this is between 2015 and 2017, but sci-fi and horror both had the lowest use of film just throughout. So sci-fi had 4% of all sci-fi movies were filmed exclusively on film, or shot exclusively on film. And then horror, they had 0%. I don't know. I'm sure there were some horror movies that were filmed on film. I keep on saying that. Filmed on film. Shot on film. And they probably just like rounded down to 0. But again, it's very low.
Could be 0 movies. I don't know.
It could be 0. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it's not 0.
All right, Mr. Statistics.
And then on the higher end of movies shot on film are drama movies and crime movies. And even though they're still on the higher end, they're still very low. So drama has 17% and crime has 19%. So it's actually a good amount of them considering how prevalent digital is right now, but still. And then despite the genre trends, there are some outliers. Specifically, or famously, you might know that Christopher Nolan is against digital and Quentin Tarantino is against digital. So they both only shoot movies on film. Quentin Tarantino actually said he would stop making movies if he could not shoot on film anymore.
What a drama queen. Jeez.
Kind of is.
I mean,
he really is.
They're very passionate about it.
You should be happy your job is making movies.
Yeah, I mean, some people consider them snobs. I like their movies, but I do consider them a little bit of a snob when it comes to that.
Oh yeah, you can enjoy the art without being like, while still being like, I don't think I want to hang out with the artist.
Yeah. And then there are a few other filmmakers that are known for shooting on films. So Denzel Washington does, the Coen brothers do, and Paul Thomas Anderson does. But then there are also filmmakers that prefer digital, and the majority of their movies are on digital. So, and these were like the early adopters of digital. So like James Gunn, he did like Guardians of the Galaxy, he did Slither. Robert Rodriguez, one of the earliest movies in digital was Spy Kids, so he did that. And then Paul W.S. Anderson, so the other Paul Anderson.
Did they remake Spy Kids? Did they like do like a follow-up or something recently?
They did a follow-up to Lava Girl and Shark Boy, I think.
I think there's rumors of a Spy Kids one now too. But I'm not sure about that.
He came out with a movie where Shark Boy and Lava Girl were like the parents.
Yeah.
I forget what it was called though.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if they actually did something or if it was just I just seen enough posts of like, oh, where's Shark Boy and Lava Girl now? Like, can you believe it's the same person? I'm like, well, yeah, it's been like 15 years. Yeah, they're adults now in the same career path. Wild.
I think they do that with all the child stars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are lots of directors that use both, and there are lots of movies that shoot scenes in both mediums. But the trend is definitely going towards digital. So if all digital data disappeared, all these new digital movies would be gone as well, which is a good amount of movies. But we would still have all the old movies, because old movies are shot on film because digital wasn't a thing. So what would happen to all these old movies? So we wouldn't necessarily have all these old movies because film decays over time. So we have to like preserve them and archive them. One of the ways we archive them is digitally, which is not good in our case.
Yeah.
That's actually, most of our films are archived digitally, even though it's technically not really seen as a true way of archiving because it's so rapidly evolving that like previous formats of tech become obsolete. So they say it's not true archiving, but we do it anyway. And the reason we do it is because preserving the actual film itself is so difficult and it costs a good amount of money. So to preserve the film, you have to store it in freezing temperatures and at low humidity. And once degrading starts, there's no way to stop it that we know of. So all this makes it like relatively expensive to preserve.
So you need a crossover movie made by a snobby filmmaker who refused to use digital, and then maintained by a snobby archivist who doesn't believe that digital is true archiving.
Yeah, and we've actually lost some movies. Like there are movies that used to exist that we don't have anymore, and we've lost forever. The majority of the movies in the silent era we've lost forever, and there's one movie, The Mountain Eagle, which was Alfred Hitchcock's second movie he ever directed. is lost forever. We have like screenshots or like stills here and there. I think there's like 20 something stills of this movie, but we don't have the actual movie anymore, which is a shame because
if I'd ever heard of it, I'd be sad.
well, I know who Alfred Hitchcock is, and he's famous.
Well, yeah, but do you think his second movie is any good?
The first one is good enough to make the second.
I mean,
one.
our first podcast episode was, and our second one was probably worse.
Yeah. That's true. So really, the films that we choose to preserve will survive, and those will be the films that we will be able to watch. How do we decide which films we're going to preserve? So the National Film Preservation Board has a registry, and every year they decide to induct a bunch of films into this registry to preserve. And there are 800 movies on the list as of 2020. Some of these include like Jurassic Park, The Matrix, Pulp Fiction, Titanic, Schindler's List, and Shrek.
So, a dubious list.
I did find it funny that Shrek is on there. They inducted that in 2020.
At least they didn't put, well, I don't know for sure, but at least they didn't put the Emoji Movie in, right?
I doubt it. Highly doubt it. In general, all these movies are actually pretty high quality. I mean, it makes sense we would want to preserve it because it's good. So we had this list of 800 movies that we can watch if all digital movies disappear, which is pretty good. The question is, do we have a way to watch them? So to answer this question, I had to look at how we distribute movies. So obviously, streaming is not a thing anymore. We won't be able to watch things on Netflix or Amazon. So we'd have to go to like a physical theater to watch something. So we should be able to watch movies in theaters, but the thing is that most theaters have digital projectors now because digital projectors they have less moving parts. They don't require a physical print to be shipped from like the studio or anything, which is an expensive process. So like to print a film to a reel, it costs around like $1,500 to $2,500 per print. And then if you're distributing like thousands of copies of that print, it costs around like $5 or $6 million to distribute a movie in like a wide release.
So you need a snobby movie held by a snobby archivist to be played in a snobby theater.
Yeah. Now, in comparison, for digital, if you want to distribute a digital movie, it costs about $50 to store a movie on a 300 gigabyte hard drive. And then if you distribute that to like thousands of theaters, then it costs around $200,000 compared to like the $5 or $6 million. And the hard drives can be reused. So like the theaters will send them back to the studios and they reuse the hard drives. And because of this, digital distribution is it's way favored over projection. And by 2014, 94% of all theaters in the US had replaced their film projectors with digital projectors. So most theaters have digital projectors. And if all digital data disappeared, we would have the 800 classic movies. We'd have Christopher Nolan movies. We'd have Quentin Tarantino movies. And there'd be a few select places that we can watch movies, but the vast majority of theaters are not going to have a way to play them. So most people are not going to be able to watch movies. And in a time of COVID and quarantine, we'd probably all die of boredom and there'd be no movies to watch, which is sad.
That is sad. Ben turned his around to a positive, even though he deleted everybody's money.
Yeah. But we
you
still
talked
have
about movies and you just left us down on a low note.
No, people like movies. Movies are good.
People like money too.
Well, apparently people like movies more. If that made you sadder.
I'd rather have a lot of money than a lot of movies.
Yeah, that was the end of I ended on a sad note.
All right. Well, let's see if we can't rally it over with our would you rather question. Ben.
Yes.
This one's a food question, so I'm going to start with you.
Nice.
Would you rather put ketchup or ranch dressing on everything you eat?
That's an easy one for me.
That's an easy one for me too. It's an easy one for you, Marcus.
I could go either. It's a debate for me. What's the easy for you?
All right. In that case, Chris, on the count of three, we both say what our easy one is, and we're going to see how this goes. 1, 2, 3. Ketchup.
Ranch.
What?
Oh, here we go. All right, Judge Marcus presiding. Ben, please present your case.
Man, I barely even want ranch on the things you put ranch on. Like,
I mean, I just don't really like ketchup that much.
I guess
And
okay.
ranch is like creamy, and I like creamy.
But so ranch is a much stronger flavor than ketchup. Ketchup is kind of just smooth, slightly sweet, tomatoey flavor that's not really bad on anything. I wouldn't say it's great on many things, but it's not bad on anything either. Ranch can be bad on a lot of things.
What is good on with ketchup on it that isn't good with ranch on it?
I would not want to eat a hot dog with ranch dressing on it.
I've done that before.
What?
What? Was this a thing that was sold to you, or did
I've
you do this
100%
like
done that
intentionally?
before.
Like,
I've done that intentionally. Like I had ranch. I mean, it was a long time ago. It was probably in like high school, but I had ranch in the refrigerator and I was making a hot dog and I was like, ooh, I'll try that.
all right,
And it was good.
you should not put ketchup on a steak, but you should definitely not put ranch on a steak. I'll tell you that.
I've never done that, but I mean, I don't think it would be bad.
That makes more. Actually, the ranch on steak makes more sense to me than ranch on hot dog.
Yeah, I don't know. Hot dog was the first thing I thought of. I don't know. Whatever.
I
it's
also
fine.
think ketchup is a stronger taste than ranch. Ketchup is like vinegary
not that vinegar. Like,
compared to, I mean, like ranch is creamy and smooth.
but Marcus, you have to be the voice of reason here. What? We are clearly entrenched. So since you're apparently undecided,
Well, I was hoping to hear both cases about which one
right.
is which, but
let me put it this way: you're gonna have a nice bowl of vanilla ice cream. Would you rather put on some ketchup or some ranch dressing?
on vanilla ice cream, I think it's ranch.
What? How?
Yes.
Also, my audio just definitely spiked, and I'm very sorry. That was just unbelievable to me.
You're so passionate.
It seems the less offensive of the two to
How-
combine with that flavor.
This is madness. I don't
Who are you people?
understand how this is a question. Like,
I think I'm still leaning towards ketchup because there are more things I enjoy with ketchup.
Like, it's weird to dip vegetables in ketchup.
that is the one thing I will say is that for like a salad, the intended purpose of ranch, yes, ranch is going to be better.
Or just like any vegetables, like broccoli or carrots.
I guess, yeah. I mean, that is true, but I just feel like for the vast
Ranch is a
majority of
vegetable
things,
dipping sauce.
I don't know. Like,
Like, the closest dressing to ketchup is French dressing, probably. And I always prefer ranch dressing over French dressing.
I just can't with this. I don't know.
I've dipped fries in ranch and it's great.
The flavors in ketchup are like some sweetness, some vinegar, a little bit of spice, kind of, and like I guess technically some tomato. You can pretty much put those in anything; it's not going to be bad.
I've dipped wings in ranch and it's great. I've never dipped wings in ketchup before.
I mean, if you have you'd have like dry wings probably if you're going to have wings. You just put them in ketchup. It's like having chicken nuggets that are really annoying with a bone in them, but you could do it. Like,
That's weird.
wings are going to be better with ranch. I'm going to say that's probably true, but.
All right, I'm leaning towards ketchup because one key food group I don't think is good with ranch is pizza.
Actually, I have had ranch with pizza because I've gotten wings of pizza and had ranch there, and it was there, and it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can have a white pizza. You can have a white pizza with ranch. Like you can have.
No, I mean I just
pizza.
dipped a piece of pizza in ranch before because it was there.
What?
Yeah, I mean, what's offensive about that? I don't see what's wrong with that. I think it's weirder to dip pizza in ketchup because it already has tomato sauce on it.
I mean, it's weird as heck. My grandfather has done it, but it's not going to change that flavor profile. Also, one of the things I'm thinking too is ketchup, because it has a little bit of a thicker consistency than the ranch dressing, is just a little bit less messy of a condiment. For me, I actually don't like when food is too messy because it makes it just cumbersome to eat. So ketchup stays where it's supposed to. Ranch does not. That's again, it's kind of close for me. I think there's a lot of foods that I would begrudgingly apply either of these condiments to. So I think we've laid out our cases. I'm gonna go ketchup. Ben, do you hold your ground?
I hold my ground, and my final argument is that although there are things that taste good with ranch, that is true. Ranch is a stronger flavor than ketchup. It's gonna be on everything. I'm gonna get tired of ranch and hate it a lot faster than with ketchup.
I disagree that ranch is a stronger flavor than ketchup.
That is mind-boggling. I don't.
And
Chris, you and I
just
cannot
like
talk
ranch.
about food.
Hey, Chris, let you say your piece without interrupting you.
I know.
Ranch is creamy and delicious. I mean, I still like. I never choose ketchup. Is the thing. Like, if it's there, then sure, maybe I'll dip it. But like, if I have fries and there's ketchup, I'll just eat the fries plain. If there's ranch there, I'll dip the fries. So I'm going ranch.
All right, there you have it. 2 for ketchup, 1 for ranch. Hot debate. This is weirdly one of more contentious would you rather questions that we've had. If you enjoyed us arguing about ranch versus ketchup and you want to put your 2 cents in, you could do it in a review, perchance. There's a platform for you to write words. You can also give us lots and lots of stars on it, and it's a great way to help the show. So if you just comment ketchup or ranch dressing in a review for the podcast that's rated 5 stars, I think that helps our algorithms, right?
Sure, the numbers
might show up
there.
in some weird searches. But seriously, if you enjoy the show, leaving a review is one of the best ways that you can help us grow, get more, help us show up on searches. And when people check out the podcast, then they look through, they're like, oh, how many reviews has it got? And if it's like 2, people don't click on it. But if it's like 50,000, people are like, hell yeah, a lot of people listen to this one. So leave a review. If you want to be even more direct with your help, you can always go to www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals and become a patron. Just $1 a month. You get access to our behind-the-scenes episode that we record each month to go into how we make the show. We workshop new content. We talk about the last month's questions. And it's a pretty cool time. So feel free to join us there if you want even more absurd hypothetical action in your life. But if you can manage to wait a whole week, you can join us next week where we answer the following question. What if you could perfectly train sharks?